This is a short overview of EV Analyzer. EV Analyzer is a web-based application that allows you to compare vehicles and determine the total cost of ownership, also known as TCO. As you can tell by the name, EV Analyzer was made to compare electric cars, primarily with gas and diesel, but you can just as easily compare two or more gas cars. You can also compare propane, flex fuel, diesel, and CNG vehicles as well. So if you're a professional like a fleet manager, you're probably well familiar with TCO, and you may have also built a spreadsheet to calculate TCO. However, in our experience, almost no one ever actually sits down to do the math. EV Analyzer will calculate all costs associated with owning and operating your vehicle and give you real numbers. Because as we like to say, without data, you're just someone else with an opinion. So I'm going to show you how to do a financial analysis of a vehicle or set of vehicles so you can get real numbers and make a fact-based decision on selecting the right vehicle. So let's get started. To get started with EV Analyzer, go to app.evanalyzer.com. Enter your email, enter your password, and click Sign In. From there, you're taken to the home screen. The home screen lists the 4 simple steps that you need to get some results out of it. So step number 1 is create a new project. A project is essentially a container that you put all your information in. It's something you can save and recall later. Once you've created a new project, you're going to need to select one or more vehicles and put them inside the project. Once you have a project with vehicles inside them, then you need to enter all of the required fields of data for each of the vehicles. So that would be things like how much you paid for the vehicle, what your sales tax is, how far you're driving it, the cost of fuel, and things like that. The program will help you by setting some defaults. And then finally, after you have that information in, then you can go to the navigation bar up top, click on Financials, and view the results. Okay, let's create a project. To do that, we're going to click on New Project. And the dialog box that comes up, we have to enter a little bit of information. So the first thing is we're going to enter the name. Let's just call this Tesla TCO Analysis. And we can say my new Tesla TCO for a description. There's one other field that we need to enter, and that is the zip code. The reason why EV Analyzer wants that is so it can set a couple of defaults, like what your sales tax would be, and to help you get started on default fuel prices. So once I have a name, a description, and a zip code in, we can create the project. Here we have the project. So you can see so far under this section over here that there are no vehicles yet selected. So we must add a vehicle to continue. So come down here, click Add a Vehicle, and the vehicle selection pop-up box appears. Let's choose a passenger car. That's all that's available now. Trucks, school buses, and other vocational vehicles will be installed in the database soon. So passenger car, fuel type, battery electric. You can see gasoline, diesel, and others are available. We'll choose a battery electric. We'll scroll down to Tesla. Let's say we're going to buy a 2025 Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive, and we click Select. With that, we're taken to the vehicle comparison screen, and you can see there's a bunch of input fields here that we'll have to enter. Let's just zoom in a little bit so we can see that a little bit better. Okay, here we go. This column over here, you can see a bunch of fields. Some of them are yellow. That means they're pre-populated, but we can still edit them. And some are white, which means that we have to enter that. So let's take it from the top. This first section here describes the vehicle. The MPGe, or miles per gallon equivalent for a gasoline vehicle, has been pulled from the database. You can change it if you want. Let's just leave that as it is. Next, we'll go down to route and operational inputs. 2 simple questions. What is the annual miles driven? Let's say that that's 15,000 miles. And then it asks for the percentage of that 15,000 miles that is driven in the city. Let's say we drive 50% in the city and 50% on the highway. We'll do this analysis for 7 years. Next comes the maintenance cost model. Here it's asking how many cents per mile it will cost you for maintenance. On average, we are using 8 cents per mile for an electric vehicle, and more than that for a gas vehicle, but that'll be populated later. You enter your insurance rates. Let's say it's $3,500 a year for insurance, and the recurring annual fees, which would be, for example, registration, $250. As we continue to scroll down, you can see fuel costs have been pre-populated. Gas, $3.14 a gallon, diesel, $3.53 a gallon, and electricity, 18 cents per kilowatt hour. So obviously gas and diesel is not relevant for the Tesla, but if we add more vehicles to compare it with which will be what we do shortly, the gas prices will be relevant. So for now, 18 cents a kilowatt hour has been pre-populated over here. Next, we come down to procurement inputs. We have the vehicle base price. Let's say the vehicle costs $45,000. Upfitting and options. This is really for commercial vehicles or other vehicles that people customize. We have the sales tax that's been calculated for us already, given 8 5/8 sales tax. And let's say the title and registration from the dealer will cost us $750. So at this point, we have a vehicle that costs $49,631, including tax and title and registration. And the procurement method is cash. We'll see later we can also do loans and leases, but let's keep it simple now for cash. And let's click save. With that, we can go up here and choose financials. So let's click on financials on the navigation bar, and we'll be taken to the total cost of ownership, or TCO, analysis. Let's take a look at what we have here. A bunch of numbers over here, but just relax, take a look at it, and let's see what we can gather out of this. So the most important things are just right up here at the top. You can see for this vehicle, the total cost of ownership in dollars is $73,144. And we'll figure out in a second how we get to that large of a number, but that's what it costs to own this vehicle for this entire time. That comes out to about 69 cents, 69.7 cents a mile to drive this vehicle. So how do we get to that amount? Okay, first section, vehicle procurement. The depreciation on this vehicle is $28,604. We bought it for cash, so there's no financing charge, and we paid $4,631. Now it's important to note that we did say we would own and operate this vehicle for 7 years. Recall, we did put that number in on the prior slide, and if you go down here to details, it says that the vehicle is owned for 7 years. So this is important. When you buy a vehicle and own it for 7 years, obviously that means you sell it at the end, and that means you get value back. This calculates depreciation at $28,000, which means the vehicle was sold for the balance of the $45,000 that we paid for it. Now let's go down to operation costs. Fuel will cost $5,009 to operate this vehicle across the 7 years. Maintenance and repair will cost $8,400 to operate across the 7 years. Insurance will be $24,500 to operate across the 7-year period. And then fees, you may recall we entered registration fees and title fees and other fees to operate the vehicle. That will be $2,000. The details, recall we purchased it for cash. It'll be owned and operated for 7 years. It'll be driven 105,000 miles for these 7 years. Okay? Then if we come to the bottom over here, we can see all that broken up by cost per mile. So depreciation is 27 cents a mile down here. Oops, sorry. 27.2 cents a mile for depreciation. Financing is 0 because it was not leased and there was no loan taken. We can do those options. Taxes are 4.4 cents a mile. Fuel is 4.8 cents a mile. Maintenance is 8 cents a mile. Insurance is 23.3 cents a mile. And fees are 1.9 cents a mile for a total of 69.7 cents per mile to operate. So if you look at this quickly, what can we see? We can see that the single most expensive thing is depreciation of the vehicle. That's the cost of the vehicle to buy it minus what we can sell it for, or what it's worth if we continue to use that. So that's the single most expensive thing on this Tesla is 27.2 cents a mile for depreciation. The next most expensive thing is insurance, which is pretty darn close actually. It almost costs as much to insure the vehicle as it does to own the vehicle. And then after that, we start going into much smaller values. 8 cents a mile for maintenance and repair, 4.8 cents a mile for fuel, 4.4 cents a mile for taxes. So that's what it costs to operate your vehicle. Now, if you look on the menu up here, in addition to the TCO analysis, we also have a cash flow statement. Let's click on that and see what that says. So we're going to click on cash flow statement on the side navigation bar. Okay, what do we have here? This is as it states. It's a flow of all cash for operating this Tesla. Let's go through it, with the exception of the top, which is depreciation. Okay, so as we said, we have 7 years of operation. Year 0 on financial statements normally refers to the money you pay at the time you take possession of the vehicle. And then year 1 is what you pay within the first year of operation, year 2 within the second, and so forth. Okay? And then over here we have what's called net present value. For you people in finance, you'll understand that. Net present value is the sum of all future cash flows pulled back to the present. Now, to calculate that, we use something called the discount rate. And you'll look up here at the top and you'll see the discount rate has been set to 0. The time value of money is important, and as we'll show in a follow-up video, you can enter and change the discount rate to take into account the time value of money. Okay, so we'll see that this is the depreciation of the Tesla. It starts out at $45,000, and in year 7, the claim is that it's $16,396. That's what the car is worth. And if we go down here to ending value recovered, you will see that this analysis assumes that we sold the car for the market value in the future at year 7, which means the vehicle depreciated from $45,000 to $16,396. And the difference between that is what the depreciation is on the prior slide. Under procurement, it shows the payments made. Again, this vehicle was purchased for cash, not a loan or a lease. So that means year 0 is when you bought the car. We spent $45,000 for the car. We spent $4,631 on taxes. So the total procurement costs were $49,631 at the time we took delivery of the vehicle. We sold the vehicle for $16,396. Total procurement cost, $33,000. Then we come down to operating costs. In a similar fashion, you can see what the cost of fuel is for a year, in this case $716. Maintenance and repair, $1,200. Insurance, $3,500. And the other fees we have here all summed up. So operating the vehicle, not paying for it, which is procurement, but ongoing operations are $5,666 per year. And that's spread across 7 years. Plus the registration fees in every year, comes out to an out-of-pocket of $39,909. So if you add the operating costs to the procurement costs, this Tesla has cost $73,144 to operate across 7 years. All costs, and the purchase costs and the operating costs all rolled together. I'd like to point out a few other things that are part of the program. There is some basic help. If you come up here to the top, you can click on help, and here will be some description of the program. There is an FAQ and there is a glossary if you find this helpful to you. On the navigation menu, you'll see after financials that there are 3 other possibilities. One is environmental, one is energy, one is reports. These are not functional at this time. It's something that we're working on to put in. So the idea is environmental, we will be able to to show what the emissions are of the vehicle in a comprehensive fashion, what's called well to wheel, so we can compare a gas car against an electric car and really see what the environmental differences are. We'll be doing some energy calculations, including charging, and analyzing the fuel sources as well from all these different vehicles, and then finally the ability to produce reports. Stay tuned for that. We hope to make that available in the coming few weeks. That's it. Thank you.